Hello, my name is Caleb, and I'm going to show you a few pictures of the cruise we took in September of 2013. This is us waiting for the Dallas Heathrow plane. This is my brother and sister waiting and looking out for our plane to arrive in the terminal. This is in London, United Kingdom. We flew in the next morning, and we were looking at England from the air. Beautiful sunrise, an unexpectedly nice day in England. This is our cab driver who is driving us around. He was hired privately. This is some of the architecture from Western London. We are heading into the capital. This is the Bank of Scotland in downtown London, ironically. Here is a statue in front of a palace. The Queen was in residence. Another statue. This is the London Eye, right by the quay that goes along the Thames River. This is my dad in front of our hotel, and behind him are some impressively sized double-decker buses. An interesting blue building. Everything in London was designed very interestingly. This is me below a rocket-shaped building. That building currently holds the Rosetta Stone. Here's the London Tower Bridge. We walked there from our hotel, and this is us under it. It's been a lifelong, year-long dream to see it. This is us looking down at the Thames River from the Queen's Walk. This is us eating in a nice Indian restaurant. This is my dad. We are heading back to our hotel tonight, or that night. This is the next day at the Liverpool station. We are waiting to get a train to take us to Harwich and then board our cruise ship and move on. Our next stop was Paris, France. We boarded the ship that day, and then the next day we arrived here. We went by bus to the capital, central Paris, and it took about 2.5 hours. We went on the Voyage Frontin. It dropped us off at Place de Concorde, which we are standing there now, in front of a fountain. I do believe this is Jardin du Louvre, right behind the Louvre, in Paris. Here is inside the Louvre, very interesting ceilings. This is in the Grande Galerie. We are moving steadily towards the Mona Lisa. And there she is. What a spectacular work of art. This is us in the second most famous piece in the Louvre, the Winged Victory of Samothrace. And this is my personal favorite, the Coronation of Napoleon. My dad thinking about the 300 euros apiece to get a taxi back to the ship. And there is the Cathedral of Notre Dame along the Seine River. This is my sister eating a ham and cheese sandwich. We arrived in Portland, and from Portland we drove into downtown Weymouth. This is the bay, beautiful Jurassic coast. This used to be a navy yard. There were some old retired ships still there, but the Royal Navy had to move out. This is in the town of Weymouth. Cobblestone streets, and it reeked of fish in the town. This is a quay along a river. know what the river is. A lot of sailing here. This is where they held the 2012 Sailing Olympics. The next day we went to Cove, Ireland. That is St. Colman's Cathedral, one of the oldest cathedrals in Europe. Another view of the cathedral. This is called a deck of cards. 23 of them go down the hill until they reach the shore. From this point, the Titanic was just visible. It couldn't dock in the harbor because it was too big. This is inside St. Colman's Cathedral. Beautiful arched roof and stained glass windows. Cruise ship is in the background. Here is the harbor. The city center. Here is the dock where the passengers were tendered to the Titanic from. The next day we went around Ireland and into Dublin, the capital. This is a view from a double-decker bus. It's nice to get a two-story view everywhere you go. Allows for some good sightseeing. This is inside Trinity College, still in Dublin. It holds the famous Book of Kells and one of the oldest harps in Ireland. This is this in the library that inspired episode 2. There's the oldest harp in Ireland. Yes, this is in the library that inspired the episode 2 library from Attack of the Clones. This is me in front of a statue. I don't know who it is, but there's a bird on him, and the bird kind of turned his hair white, though he's a black statue. And this is one of the tallest monuments. It is silver, obviously, and it is one of the highlights we wanted to see. There's a Celtic cross from the Viking era. Here's a sword from the Viking era. And here's a Viking from the Viking era. Obviously, what's left of him is in pretty good shape. And this is my dad from almost the Viking era. The next stop was in the Faroe Islands. A couple days later, we are heading towards a small town called Klaksvik, and then from there we'll catch a bus into Tórshavn. The moss covers the ground, and it looks like grass from far off. Occasionally you will get grass though, but a lot of it is moss, because the ground is so rocky and volcanic. There is a thin layer of dirt over it though. So thin that dirt has to be imported to bury people. This is a waterfall coming from the peaks where the snow melts. Water is free in the Faroe Islands, and so you can leave the tap running as long as you want. There's plenty of it. That bridge crosses a fjord that separates two islands. That's one of the only places you can cross the Atlantic on a bridge. This is us. In the background, that is the capital city of Tórshavn, smallest capital in the world. This is the harbor right out of Tórshavn. A lot of boats there. Very active port. The they only have one warship, and it has a 20 millimeter machine gun, which is not a whole lot of millimeters. And that's the biggest gun that the Danish will let them have. This is a Lutheran church in downtown Tórshavn. There are a lot of grass roofs on the building because the wood is too expensive to import. They couldn't cheat on the sides, obviously, but they could do some without the roofs. So, there, they have grass roofs. This house probably cost a fortune. It is, the houses here are very expensive because there's just not a whole lot of people and not a whole lot of livable land. My father in the bay in the background. This is a fjord. The same one I do believe that we crossed going to the city. We are now heading back to the ship. The houses have to be kind of far from the water's edge because erosion is very prominent here. A very beautiful place, but they won't let it into the European Union. Here's my sister on the deck of our cruise ship. And our last look at the Faroe Islands. Reykjavik, Iceland. It's not as icy as you might think, but it's still kind of cold. It's a boat that's escorting us into the harbor. Um, the harbor of Reykjavik is a harbor within a harbor, so it is you can real, but it has to be to hold ships because there's a lot of storms near here. The architecture is really fascinating too. They have the ultra modern because the city sprung up overnight. It was a small town until the fishing industry started. There is the city. There's a 3D monument or a 2D monument, something like that. In the that's at 3D, but it's 2D. This is the lava fields, and here's an arch. I don't. It's in honor of someone, but I can't remember it. Here's a whaling ship. They do have whaling in this part of the world. It's legal. Knurting. I wonder what that means. This is at a hydroelectric power plant called, or no, not geothermal power plant called the Pearl. Yep, those tanks hold hot water, which is sent to warm the sidewalks and homes. It was raining while we were there for some of it, so the windows on our bus will look kind of watery. This is a view of the just wasteland area. Looks pretty, but pretty won't feed you. Crevasses into the earth. They go down surprisingly deep. He's up to something. Gale-style houses. They help prevent them from the roofs from being blown off. This is a stream. It followed us most of the road. This is the mighty Gullfoss, a waterfall that is comparable with Niagara Falls. It goes into a very, very steep little river. This is a geyser called Geysit. It's my brother looking at it. It's a panoramic of the landscape. And another panoramic of another waterfall. Yep, this is Boston now. We spent 5 days at sea and finally arrived. Very sad day. We had to end a wonderful vacation. From here, we traveled back to Dallas. All very interesting forms of transporting goods. Waiting for a water taxi. As you can see, my sister is upset. And the girl is kind of rough who drives this. She drives really fast. We went pretty. That beacon over there is the 2 if by sea, 1 if by land church. The skyline of modern Boston. A lot of American flags here. A lot of big ones. An old ship. There's a lot of historic vessels in this harbor. It's a big flag. We could just almost touch it. Esther could touch it if she got on Noah's shoulders. This right here is one of my favorite ships, the USS Constitution. I've always wanted to visit it since I was young, and I read a little book about it. Finally got the opportunity. I didn't even know it was still in commission until we started studying about our trip. One cannon shot in that area, and you'd have a captainless crew. This is the market in central Boston. We bought some pizza here. That fence post, or the lamp post, was quite durable. Starbucks coffee. It's a very fancy one in the Bostonian style. And this is our airport in the background, and in the foreground, it's the harbor. So, quite an interesting airport. This is the Noah in front of the advertisement of the Mona Lisa. How ironic. This is our last view um, of Boston.